As people read, well, they don't read anymore. They watch videos,
Mm-hmm.
in
YouTube.
shorter
Yeah, this.
videos.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
they want the
yeah,
cliff notes. They go to Instagram. They want the full
yeah.
novel. They go to YouTube. But
Mm-hmm.
the different coaching philosophies, and I'm not going to get into which ones use which, but some will claim this is geometry.
Mm-hmm.
Some coaching theories will claim this is physics. Some will claim this is
Mm-hmm.
biomechanics. And
Mm-hmm.
and this is where I think sometimes where we used to have the forums and now we have the online forums, and now we have at least in
Mm-hmm.
person with like the coaching summit and the open forum. Um, my question is to some of these coaches, if Nick and Michael have me as part of the open forum next year, would be
Mm-hmm.
to each of them, how do you differentiate? Because all of these physics, biomechanics, geometry, applied physics, these things all play a part in the swing, physics of the club and space, et cetera, proprioception,
Mm-hmm.
neuroscience, biology. How do you know or differentiate which one to apply at any given point in time for a particular student in front of you's game?
Yeah. So if it's not going very far, I'm looking at physics. If it's going crooked and far, I'm looking at geometry.
Okay.
Then I don't get involved in the brain much because that's a
You go down some dark
highly,
tunnels in that one.
highly, highly complex thing. Yeah. Um, but the geometry is clearly needed. So if somebody's producing a lot of speed and can't get it to the ball, then I'd look more at geometry. If they're not producing speed, then I need the physics to kick in. I got to get the energy going. You mentioned biomechanics. I spent a long time looking at 3D, which was great. So kinematics, where somebody's moving in space. I'm really looking a lot more at the kinetics of what forces are they producing to make that movement happen. That's more relevant, I would say. But that, like we talked earlier, I've spent a long time looking at 3D motion capture, so I know the parameters pretty much of what I need to see. Great. How the heck do I get them to do it? That's kinetics. That's understanding the forces. Um, and if people haven't looked at Sasha Mackenzie's work on what's being done at the grip, highly suggest they look at that because, look at the forces that are being applied to the feet or through the feet to the ground, and then look at what Sasha has done from what's being done at the grip. You can really change golf swings if you understand where the force is pushing into the ground, when, and then what are you trying to do at the grip to make the grip line up with the club head. And I've been fortunate. Paul Wood's been great to me, and the guys at Ping. I've been to see the focal system a few times. Paul is great when I call him and ask him questions. They sent me some phenomenal data. Fujikura has been phenomenal. So actually looking at, without a golfer involved, because he doesn't see the 3D of the golfer, purely sees the 3D of the golf shaft, what is happening at the grip to make the club head move. And again, forces are invisible. But again, once you've seen what's actually being done to the grip um, to make the head move the way it is, it's phenomenal information to try and help somebody.
Yeah, I think that is the next frontier for the golf coaching or instructional world in general is, now that we have all these mountains of data from all these different
Mm-hmm.
measuring devices, that for some golfers or some coaches to have a better understanding of which science applies for a particular time. You're one of the few
Mm-hmm.
that answered that, like, without even hesitation, and
Mm-hmm.
no surprise with all the everything that you've utilized and have the experience you have and the equipment you use and people you teach, the list goes on. But I don't think that enough people understand that, where they get pigeonholed, as we were talking earlier, in their own theory, and they'll say, well, this is physics. Okay, well, what about
Mm-hmm.
these other 4 to 5 sciences? Are you saying that those are negated in this? They all of a sudden don't exist because of geometry, or they don't exist because of
Yeah.
physics. So it's, I think the next frontier is for the masses or more coaches to start understanding when do I maneuver, or when do I pivot from one to the other, and then how do I do that? Because if you do it at the wrong time, you could cause somebody a lot of problems, or if you implement it wrong, it could cause somebody a lot of problems.
For sure. I think there's a lot of coaching where we're trying to tell people what they're doing wrong. I think there's enough that we know now to tell people what to do. And so I think we need to do a lot better at getting that information to just the general public. I mean, I'm not a golf pro at a club, so I travel a lot. Like I'm a diamond with Delta every year, which is not great.
A lot of mornings you wake up and look at the ceiling. Where the hell am I?
Call reception and say, where am I? Yeah, so I'm at ranges where I go to clubs where I'm not the coach. So I see a lot of players swinging and talking to each other, and there's a ton of people that need help. Whereas we tend to, as coaches, we're at the top of the tree, we're passing this and passing that. It's like there's so many baby building blocks that are needed out there for people. And um, Greg Rose has been great about this because Greg is really, really good at taking complex stuff and making it simple. And it pisses people off because they want to get caught in the notion. Like, I
Hmm.
don't care. Like they need to do this better. Like, go make them do this better, whatever this is, and then come back to me. And more coaches, I wish, were like that. And I really tried to do that. I don't know. I may have told you this story last time I was on, but I won't try and make it quick. But there was a Paul Shamp told this story. It's a great. It helped me a lot with coaching. And Paul is tremendous. If anybody wants to understand learning as a coach, he's a great resource. Um, he said one of his friends was a phenomenal tennis coach, and he was coaching a guy, and his tennis coach thought he was the shit, like he was the man. His coaching guy is a really good tennis player. He's coached him for years, and this guy says one day, "Hey, I'm retiring in a couple of years. I love my wife. I want to spend some time with her when we're retired. I wanted to play tennis. Will you teach her?" And the guy goes, I don't teach beginners. But he goes, I understand, but will you teach her? He goes, for you, I'll teach her. Like, I'll do it, do you a favor. So the poor lady comes along for a lesson, and he said he's just wearing her out. She's running all over the court. He's telling her everything she's not doing correctly. It's like an hour lesson. 20 minutes into it, she walks up to the net, gives him the racket, and says, thank you. And he said, no, we're not done. She goes, no, thank you. You show me I can't play this game. And he said, I went from the best tennis coach in the world to the biggest piece of shit. And that's how a lot of golf pros are. They want to show you how you can't do what they can do, rather than show me some things I can be successful at. They get excited about it. Now you layer skills on top of that. Don't show them what they can't do. They already know they're not very, very good. That's why they're there. But show them what they could do and what they could do to get better. So, like I teaching this morning, the guy, good player, overhooks it, pushes it. What did I do on that one? I don't care. I don't know. I'm lying to you if I could tell you exactly. I know geometry-wise what's happening, but I don't know on that particular swing what was wrong. The backswing still needs to improve. Focus on the backswing. And there's enough randomization. The next one, two or three striped. Okay. Still keep working on the movement we need. Because under the gun, you can't play thinking what's going to go wrong. You
Hmm.
go, if I do these things correctly, I will hit decent shots.
Yes. A
So
lot of students I have will say, that's it. Like, well, yeah,
yeah,
I mean, do you want me? We can
pretty
go.
much. Yeah.
I'll ask them. Some people who I'll know, but maybe they're just starting to come to me. But I know they're very, very. They'll read everything. They'll watch every video.
Mm-hmm.
It early on, I will ask them. I said, look, after they, when I figure out what I think they're doing wrong, I'll say, the rabbit hole can go very deep. So Alice, do you want the red pill or the blue pill? You just tell me how far you want
Mm-hmm.
this to go. I can explain it as deep as you want to, but do you want to
Yeah.
keep it simple so that you can go play and enjoy the member guest this week or the city championship, or do you want to really go down a deep hole to understand the science part of it? So I'll give them the option.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah. And some people know, some people need the science, some people don't.
mhm,
I with good players, I'll generally ask them what do they think about when they're playing or working on it or what, I try and understand what do they want to know.
mhm.
And I'll try and tell them what I think they need to do. And then if they're curious, they may ask another question or they may go, okay, that's good. Because I want to understand, like, where are they? I mean, I try and tell people I don't want to send you away more educated. I want to send you away better. And I joke with them, if you can't sleep at night, call me and I'll be awake and I'll tell you the stuff to put you to sleep. And within 5 minutes, you'll be asleep.
Yeah, I want to ask you also one thing that I've noticed a number of your videos had, which I thought was great because my dad is one person that forever has asked me, and I've been trying to keep it simple with him, and we
Mm-hmm.
still go over it. Is he always says, "I don't know how to release the club. What do my hands and
Mm-hmm.
wrists do?" And
Mm-hmm.
if he was on social media, I could just say, send him the link to your video and say, "Just watch this."
Yeah.
John makes it very
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
What was that? doing that video or the series that you've done, well, I'll put it, say a series, but you've done a number of videos
Hmm.
on the wrist. Was
Hmm.
that because you were seeing so many people either coming to you asking you about it, or you were seeing some people online doing it incorrectly as far as what you saw?
But bit of both. So back to 3D motion capture, does the wrist go into flexion in the downswing? Yes, it does. Is that a consequence of forces being applied to the weight of the club? So again, Sasha McKenzie's stuff was very, very helpful. The mass of the golf club is not under the handle; it's near the head, as you know. It's like
Hmm.
a third of the way down to the head, or a third away from the head. So you're applying force here at the grip, and the head is kind of doing the opposite. So understanding that was a huge learning piece for me because, you know, that was very, very helpful. And then the idea when I grew up was, well, you got to get your hands working together. Well, actually, no, they don't work together. They work opposing forces. Um, and you're not trying to release it. You're really trying to hold on. So if you were in the equipment man, you know more about club fitting than I do, but the golf club, as you know, the mass is down by the head. The face is off center of that mass, or off center of the shaft. So that face is in the act of trying to close.
Hmm.
That's what it's designed to do. If you built golf clubs that didn't try and close, you probably wouldn't sell any, or you sell them to high performers. When we used to do rack glue, you put rack glue in the toe of the club, didn't you, to slow down the draw, to slow the face down. That was only for tour players usually. So their technique is coming in such a way the head is behind the handle and coming from above their hands. So the club is trying to pass the handle and it's trying to close. Tour players are trying to slow down that closing. It's a relative term. The club face is closing dramatically.
I think it's
And
the toes moving. I think it's 7 miles an hour on average faster than the heel.
yeah, so the ping stuff on focal is that the face is closing for Hovland at 2,000 degrees per second. And Jimmy Walker would be on the high end. He's at 4,000 degrees per second. So whatever, I don't
Yeah,
know the
yeah,
duration of that,
whatever the
but it's
conversion
a
is to
lot.
seconds. Yeah.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. So if you set up the right parameter, the face is trying to do that basically,
Hmm.
and the head is trying to do that. So understanding what the club was doing, understanding what Sasha's technology was or math was telling me, that the player is actually pulling towards them, so they're pulling in a hand path towards them. That is the release. The idea of people say, "Hey, I flipped it." I was like, "No, you didn't flip it. The club is designed to flip. It's trying to flip past you. It's trying to flip closed. Your job is to anticipate that and offset that." And so that's how I describe the release. If you let it release, it will close on you if you're assuming you come from any decent position. A bad golfer generally doesn't have the head coming down inside the handle, so it's coming down from outside the handle. So it's actually falling open versus closed. So they have to try and twist it. So they never hit it well. So I don't try and get anybody to try and twist it. I tell them to try and line up the shaft correctly.
Yes, that was very simple and very clear when you said it's not a twisting where the forearms are rolling for the tech guys of Pro Nation, Super Nation. So it's
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
for the average golfer. Your forearms and hands aren't rolling over. That's not a release. That if you're doing that, you better have your timing spot on because
Correct.
you're never
Yeah,
going to
go to
play very good.
Vegas.
Yes,
No, correct. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
more of the flexion extension or I don't even know how to make that sound simple.
It is, but that would be extension of the lead wrist. And then if I've got a great picture of Mark Leishman. So when I used to coach Brendan Todd, I went to where was it? The Greater Milwaukee Open one year to watch him, and because the schedule's working out, I went to a tournament to watch him. So Brendan's a rookie, Mark Leishman's a rookie, and so didn't know who Mark Leishman was. 3 holes into him, like Brendan's really good, but this Leishman kid's going to win in no time. And he was hitting high bombs, fades. I've got a picture from behind of him at when he won the live event recently, and his wrist literally looked like his left wrist is pointing up and backwards.
Mm,
So it looks like that, and it's his arm is close to his shoulder. His left hand is close to his shoulder, so it's a full release, and he's hitting fades. And fades. A lot of people are like, oh, you got to bow your wrist and hold it, and it's just that's not a fade like a tour player hits a fade because it doesn't go anywhere.
hmm.
So it may fade, but it doesn't. It goes about 2/3 the distance it needs to. These guys are hitting release fade. They're coming from a draw position. The shaft is passing them, and they're restricting that basically.
And then another part of that was to somewhat dispel the theory that many amateurs in particular get, and even better players that maybe
Hmm.
don't know. Let's say young juniors or college kids or early in their professional career, that the hands staying so far ahead of the shaft or the head, even
Hmm.
post impact. So leading in impact and like, okay, I don't want someone to say your hand that I'm saying the hands aren't leading the club head on an iron in
I'll say
particular.
it.
Okay.
I'll say it if you don't want to say
Okay.
that.
Go ahead. I'll let you speak to it because you've done a very good job with it. And I want people to, again, get more of the details from you as opposed to just a 2-minute video and explain it because you obviously have done the homework.
So Fuji told me this. Even with an iron, the shaft is in lead deflection at impact,
Hmm.
meaning the head is ahead of the handle. Now, because you hit the ground and hit the ball, the head slows dramatically. So on video, it looked like the handle is forwards, but the shaft is trying to go into lead deflection on every swing. Um, Now, if you look at a tour player when they move, their pivot has gone from here to now their tailbone's forward, their body's back, and their arms are here. So now the orientation of the handles move forwards, but the handles and the force applied to the grip is not this way through impact, it's this way. Now the club is pulling them that way, and the head's doing that, and it hits the ball, and now it looks like that. So what we see in video and still pictures is not what's happening. Again, force is invisible. The club is being pulled back towards you. So it's not a leaning forwards of the shaft. The shaft may be ahead of where it was, but the pivot is nowhere near where it was at address. Now in an elite player, it's nowhere close to where it was at address. The thoracic's in extension, they're in right side bend, the tailbone's further forward than it was. The hands are not forward, but that part of the body is significantly more forwards and back than it was at address.
Yeah, I try to explain it to a lot of students is the axis of the oval that you're or the arc that you're swinging on is your if
Hmm.
they get to try to give them a simplistic view of this that's a complicated
Hmm.
thing, that if your spine is the axis and you tip it away, your hands are going to try to release when that they get realigned with the center of your body.
Hmm.
And when they see that, at least that the light goes on in their head that they think, oh, I don't have to hold this or I don't have to, the
Yeah.
pictures that I'm looking at in the magazines are not quite right. I said, well, you got to understand that's a still shot of something that's moving at 90 to 120 miles an hour, depending on what club they have.
Yeah, we used to say impact is a moment of truth, and I wish they would show the moment after impact, where the risks of, Nicholas said impact or release is where the shaft is in line with both arms post impact.
Mm-hmm.
I think for most recreational players, that's a much better visual than trying to get the shaft leaning forward.